Ladies and gentlemen, be here this evening at around 10 p.m. Eastern Time for the live stream. We'll talk about this and the impeachment of Mayorkas and a number of other really interesting topics this evening at 10 p.m. Eastern live stream on this channel. You can let everybody know that the Supreme Court, in my view, has already ruled, has already decided upon the 14th Amendment challenge to deny Trump the Colorado ruling that the Michigan Supreme Court and the Minnesota Supreme Court and other states overruled. Okay, so those states are keeping Trump on the ballot because nobody with a functioning brain cell believes that he tried to foment a rebellion. You get these scholars or these pundits saying, well, he engaged in a rebellion. Number one, I mean, here we have, and hit subscribe to this channel right now to read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, and other publications. Go to hjgoodman.com. Patreon is below. Super thanks is below. Share this everywhere. Federal Bureau of Investigation found no evidence Trump or allies organized a rebellion, much less the criminal activity there. This was in 2021. This is the Daily Beast. We're going to go through this and share this everywhere. This is so important. This is major news, ladies and gentlemen, even though I already think that they've deliberated thus far. I mean, that the decision has already been made. We'll get to exactly why as well in terms of the Supreme Court declining to even hear this case last October because they knew it was complete nonsense. There was no evidence that law enforcement or intel officials or any intelligence apparatus found that Trump tried to overthrow the government. There's zero evidence. The people saying that Trump engaged in the definition of a rebellion apparently have never read or witnessed a rebellion in their lives. You don't do so with zero evidence of any organized plot to replace the government. This is already public record. There is no evidence. There's zero evidence aside from replays of the same chaotic scene. And you had billions in property damage that summer. And I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully, but you had billions in property damage and chaos and mayhem. You had thousands upon thousands of people arrested for criminal activity. And Democrats said, oh, well, they paid bail. And then in some very rare cases, people continued on to commit really atrocious crimes. So the Federal Bureau of Investigation found no evidence, zero of any organized plot to overthrow the government by Trump or any of his allies even. You can't even get a Trump ally or organization linked to this. Hit subscribe, share this everywhere, very important. We'll talk about this in the live stream tonight. Share this with anyone who thinks that Trump actually did engage in some kind of rebellion or attempt to overthrow the government. The most absurd and sophomoric leap of logic says that because there was criminal activity, therefore Trump tried to overthrow the government. Okay? The Supreme Court isn't even ruling on, has refused to even give Jack Smith the a ruling on Trump's immunity because he was still president and he had the right to perform a speech. Democrats are arguing that he ceased to continue to be president because the speech was partisan. What? Every speech Biden gives is partisan. Every speech a Republican or Democrat gives is partisan. But anyway, the Supreme Court, in addition to the fact the Federal Bureau of Investigation found no evidence, the Supreme Court already declined to hear this. The Supreme Court declined to hear this because they were not given any evidence that he tried to overthrow the government or form a rebellion. Maine Supreme Court also, Minnesota Supreme Court, Michigan Supreme Court. So it's not just the U.S. Supreme Court. Minnesota rejects the 14th Amendment argument. Michigan rejects the 14th Amendment challenge. You think these state Supreme Courts know something that the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't know? Everyone knows this. Then you get these absurd headlines. 25 Civil War historians think that Trump should be disqualified. These are not Trump voters. Whenever you get an article like a public relations headline, oh, well, these people wrote a letter. Big deal. The reason that you don't have people writing letters in favor of Trump is because then they'll be completely besieged by negative press. And in my experience, or in my knowledge or viewpoint, most Civil War historians are very likely more conservative, very likely more willing to vote for Trump because they're Republican. I could be wrong. Most historians, I should say, let's put it this way. A great many historians nowadays see things through the lenses of CNN and MSNBC. But there's some wonderful historians out there that are very vocal and see things for the way they are, like Trump not being in any part of a rebellion. Usually a rebellion is an organized effort where it's not just Trump, but there are deputies or generals under the command of Trump. This is not rocket science. There's armament, not a couple small arms here and there, which is what they're reaching for. There was generally almost everybody was unarmed. So you can't really have an unarmed rebellion to overthrow the United States government. And I just don't understand. They've replayed the same chaotic scene at the Capitol. And so therefore, this means that Trump tried to foment a rebellion. He had every right to disagree. And furthermore, his disagreement on results did not alter the decision-making process in the minds of people who decided to commit crimes. Okay, Trump and everyone else is allowed to think things that the mainstream or that CNN and MSNBC or the Washington Post or New York Times disagree with. And those disagreements do not compel or influence others to commit crimes. If anything, you had a Supreme Court, you had one person who was left-leaning try to take the life of a Supreme Court justice. And you have so many other examples of violence and chaos and mayhem from the left of the political spectrum. Okay, Tim Pool has gone in great detail explaining how the majority, if most of the chaos and mayhem and criminal behavior is coming from left of center. But sadly, we don't hear about that in the mainstream. The point, however, is the following. There is zero evidence that Trump tried to overthrow the United States government. It was, sadly, a day where he tried to vent or, express his viewpoint, and there was chaos. The viewpoint did not lead to the chaos. There was criminal behavior. He stated the words peaceful. He did not tell anyone to commit a crime. And there was zero effort, no organized effort, no evidence from law enforcement or any intel agency that Trump tried to foment or engage in a rebellion, which is what the I word is all about, which is why I'm not using that word because it's so stupid. And it's also, I'm trying to be algorithmically friendly. And so he did not foment a rebellion because there's no evidence to support him trying to overthrow the government other than chaotic scenes and people you see here. That is not going to overthrow any government. That is not an organized attempt by Trump to create some kind of rebellion. You use basic logic. You don't have to be a brilliant Supreme Court justice. And this is going to be a huge victory for Trump. Yet another huge victory for Trump. I think, in my humble view, they've already decided. They're just waiting. For what reason, I don't know, but they're waiting. The Supreme Court is. Give me your thoughts below. Could be any day now. Could be next month or a couple months from now. Hit subscribe. Be here tonight for the live stream at around 10 p.m. Pacific time. And you have it here. We can do the same segment, forever until the Supreme Court does overturn the Colorado ruling. Give me your thoughts. Be here tonight for the live stream. Thank you.